So I had a little cabin tree made. What's in the house? Sorry.
Was it today?
What's that?
Was it today?
A couple days ago. I took a tomato cage and just wrapped it up with like this string of plates.
Oh, cool. So I'm gonna do serious.
Yeah.
I did not. So I can either pay $300 anti-deductible or fees, or use for $70. No. No. No.
It's remarkable how I moved in quite so quickly. All my belongings here, right? Right.
Did you guys see that post from the Historical Society?
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it's been like 86 years since the week of the mine disaster. Of the mine disaster.
Oh,
Apparently it's like this week. According to the Historical Society, which is usually pretty accurate.
yeah.
Did you see that one comment that was posted about that, like that teacher prom in '99?
Yeah.
Interesting that you guys talking about how, like everyone in the community got together and told a story. And bunch of people that were like, sort of the miners and stuff that are there.
So,
I'm gonna have to adjust my watch here. It's a little slow. Oh my gosh, I was running late this morning. Are we recording it tonight?
Yeah.
Are we on right now? We are. Might not be a bad idea to just tell us when we're on camera.
And we just turned it on there. We must have
Okay.
it there, so.
Although I don't mind showing.
I heard showing your slipper video.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's hard to take me serious in these slippers, okay?
If we didn't know one, I turned it on.
I had, yeah, earlier, right, when I was passing around, showing off my slippers. Okay, you know what, I keep my feet really warm, okay, they're fluffy and they keep me warm.
yeah, I think it's more.
I don't know if they. See you a few hours later.
Sorry. Well, they just started.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Well, so they're just reviewing it, right? It's not really- it starts early.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. If everybody's ready to call the meeting to order. Thank you. I'm hoping that everybody's had a chance to take a look at the minutes of our first regular meeting on November 2nd, 21. Was there any corrections anybody found or any additions they felt should have been part of that? I see nothing, so I will make a motion to accept those minutes then. All in favor? Thank you. You have the agenda before you. Were there any additions required for the agenda this evening? Anybody have anything they'd like to add? No, finding none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, and we have no delegations this evening. We have no citizens without hope, certainly.
Deputy Mayor, we do have the delegation, with our voting officer.
Oh, I apologize. You know, it looks like she's just part of us. You're right, we do. We have a delegation with our development officer. Okay, and so the first item before us then will be closed session? Is that, okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to close the meeting?
I can.
Thank you.
I move that council close the meeting to the public for agenda item 4A, development officer Lita Kozak-Fitzworth request for a waiver as per section 17 of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. And I guess the time is about 7:01.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. We'll just let Kim close that session. All right, if we're out of camera now, who would like to make that motion then?
Okay. So I would like to move that we respond to the request for waiver for that we just discussed. I guess, I don't know, can I say as we discussed in camera, or should I add a little more to that, talking about just providing the path forward?
So I guess what you're asking for is how much information do we provide within this motion?
Yes.
Should we just say that the motion that we have determined in camera?
Yeah.
Can we get your advice on that one?
I think I would say probably that we authorize the CAO to respond to the request for a driveway waiver, and outline the necessary steps for further action. Sure. Something like that, maybe we might fine tune it a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So we can move to authorize the CAO to respond to the request for waiver and I guess state steps for progression.
All right. Good discussion, you guys, thank you. I will, are we, is that good? So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? We're all in favor? Thank you. All right, we have before us our next item. Hello, Sam.
Long time no see.
Okay.
You guys don't need more from me,
You don't, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Citizens without formal notice, we don't have a citizen without formal notice. Business arising from previous minutes. Government of Alberta update from the coal policy committee. And can you walk us through that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not a whole bunch on it, I guess, other than obviously with previous council, we had some discussions in regards to coal policy and mining, sort of in the business area, et cetera. And so obviously the government has established this, there is a coal policy committee established. We've had some various updates on that. This is the latest update that was provided. There is an extension with the committee requesting, further engagement in that until the end of December. So just basically bringing it forward for your information as to where the process is at, and for the sake of the new members, obviously just a little updates to the process at this point in time. So not a whole lot more than that. We did respond initially to a request, I think, from Mayor at Crow's Nest or High River, one or the other.
I think there was both of them.
Yeah, in terms of, take on it, that we had some concerns with it, with the mining that was going on, and that's going to be the extent of what's happening now. So the government's working through it. So.
Yes, thank you. There's nothing more required from us at this time. We've given our response, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have any questions on that? No, all right, good. Okay, the next item on our agenda will be then our bylaw number 429-2 on Regional Assessment Review Board. Did you want to discuss that with us? Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, as you saw in the information that was provided for you, there was a letter that came from Horst in terms of some of the legislative changes that have occurred in the MGA in terms of the process. And as a result, they're recommending that the agreement was slightly changed. I believe you were given a copy of kind of the red version to show some of the changes that were made in there. And basically, it's an agreement that we did enter into as indicated in 2013, I believe. Not a lot of changes other than the fact of some changes to the MGA and that type of stuff. So we do utilize, of course, in terms of the clerk and helping us through that process if and when it's necessary. So it's just a bylaw to enter into the revised agreement and carry on with the situation as per outlined in there. So, like I said, not a lot of changes to what was there, mostly just the legislative changes, pretty much the biggest ones.
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions on that? Thank you. We have a motion before us then. Would anybody like to make that motion? So we're looking at the first reading.
I move that the bylaw 429-21 Regional Assessment Review Board is hereby read a first time.
All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody want to move second reading?
Sure.
Thank you.
I move that bylaw 429-21 is hereby read a second time.
All those in favor? Thank you. And third reading? Anybody interested? I guess I'll do third reading then. So I will move that the bylaw number 429-21 Regional Assessment Review Board is third, I guess it's read for the third time. And all those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, we need the, to give it.
Oh, that we'll be giving it 3 readings at this meeting. Thank you. I'm not sure if it's the screen that's a little blurry or if it's my eyes, so I will correct that we are giving this 3 readings at this meeting. All those in favor? Thank you. And then we have a final. Luke, anybody like to do that? Thank you.
I can do it if you want.
Sure. That's okay.
I move that bylaw 49-21 Regional Assessment Review Board be given a third and final reading, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign and seal the bylaw.
Thank you. All those in favor? Oh, thanks. All right. And we have one more bylaw before us, and that is our borrowing bylaw, bylaw 430-21. And did you want to speak about that with us? Thank you.
So this is basically an annual bylaw that we pass. In a sense, what it is a draft bylaw. Just gives us the opportunity that if necessary, prior to taxes coming in or some grants being received or something to that effect, but it just gives us the authorization to go into a $300,000 overdraft. And like I say, it has to be done on a yearly basis, so it's an annual thing. We've only used it once in the years that I've been here, so it's not very often it's utilized, but it's like an overdraft in a personal checking account or something to that effect. So.
Thank you.
Quick question. Is this the same as our debt policy, or is this different?
This is different in the sense that the debt policy is how much we can borrow at a certain given time based on our assessment and that type of stuff. This is just, like I say, basically in some cases and in other communities I've been in, if your taxes don't come in until say June, July, and you've got expenses from January to June, your bank account may get a little thin to wanting to pay wages, utilities, and that type of stuff. So like I say, it's strictly an overdraft bylaw that has not been utilized very often, like once.
So it's more of a just in case.
Yeah.
So the 300,000 is sufficient, I guess, because
It's, like I say, the ones that we utilized, it was more than enough, then, like I say, we haven't been in a situation where we have utilized it very much, so.
Any other questions? All right, so we have the bylaw before us. Would anybody like to make a motion to read this bylaw for the first time? Yep.
Sure. I'll move that the bylaw number 43-21 foreign bylaws hereby read first time.
All in favor? Thank you. So moved. We require a second reading. And
I'll move that bylaw 430-21 is hereby read a second time.
all those in favor? So moved. Thank you. And the next motion, that it be given 3 readings at this meeting?
I can do that.
Thank you, Jesse.
I move that bylaw 430-21 be given 3 readings at this meeting.
All those in favor? Thank you. And final motion? Okay.
I'll move that bylaw number 43-21 foreign bylaw be given third and final reading, and the mayor and chief administration officer be authorized to sign and seal the bylaw.
All those in favor? Wonderful, that's carried. Thank you. All right, our next item before us is our committee minutes. Committee of the whole meeting held November 9th. And our committee of the whole meeting held November the 30th, 2021. Did anybody have any questions on that or any discussion on those? Okay. No? So we did we have two motions that came out of those?
We have the two recommendations.
We've got two recommendations that came out of those, thank you. Okay. All right, so I will make the first motion that came out of those meeting minutes, and that is that the Council of the Town of Colhurst hereby approve Councillor Poultry to sit on the executive board for the Oldham River Regional Services Commission. Furthermore, that Councilman Ackerman be approved to sit on the South Grove Regional Initiative Executive Board if he so chooses. Is that okay? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay.
And just for your information, I was elected, so.
Oh, congratulations, wonderful. And did you decide to put your name forward?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And have we heard anything back yet? Or?
It's on the 16th.
On the
Saturday,
16th.
so find out then.
Wonderful. All right. We'll look forward to hearing. And, okay, and we have another motion that comes up.
Yes, I move that the council of the Town of Colhurst hereby approve Deputy Mayor Caldwell to sit on the executive board of the Green Acres Foundation.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Okay. All right. Oh, we had a few more motions that came out of that. That's right. And Councillor Poultry, you had one more recommendation that came out of that?
Yes, I move that the council of the Town of Colhurst hereby amend bylaw 416-20, the urban hen bylaw, by removing clause 9.6 temporary term of the bylaw.
Thank you. And I'm wondering, before we vote on that, can you just clarify what that is for us then, Kim, what that means? Thank you.
Yeah, so basically that was, the bylaw was in place to December 31st of 2021. So we had the option of either amending it, canceling it, or extending it. So our discussion was such that we chose to remove that clause. So basically there is no further extension date that's in place until such time as council chooses to review the game based on.
And that is our urban hen
Yeah.
bylaw. So that allows community members to come and put in an application for.
Yeah, this is the recommendation, so the actual bylaw with that pulled out of it will still be brought forward to the next meeting too.
Wonderful, thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, and then we need a motion for the acceptance of the committee minutes.
I'll move that the committee minutes presented in this meeting are accepted.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, our internal reports. We have before us our financial report for months ending October 31st, 2021. And I guess I'll ask you to walk us through those again. Thank you.
So basically just going through again, as indicated, it's the end of October. Just highlight a few areas previous to, ones presented at the end of September. Still looking quite good, as indicated at that one as well. There are a number of internal entries and sort of entries that are still in progress, such as the capital receipts or monies or whatever, grants, et cetera, to still be transferred accordingly. Some of the expenses are still occurring. Some of the internal transfers, which are transfers to reserves, that type of stuff, take place at year end. And generally, like I say, once we have sort of finalized versions of a lot of the capital, that's when we do this sort of one sort of entry for the transfer from the grants that are in reserves or grants that are kind of on the basis of that. So some cases it may look like there's big numbers, but those are the big numbers relating to those types of scenarios. So, but quickly going through, and certainly if there's any other questions as we go, feel free. As far as the council end of things, again, just I did mention it last time, the travel training per diems and registration travel, well under budget this year on the basis of everything being mostly virtual up until the AU convention, which was just held. So generally there are some other, travel mileage, meals, etc. But like administration wise, Again, as indicated, the other revenue there showed a, a fairly substantial increase, about $5,500. That was to do with the Senate referendum monies that we received for conducting those votes. Penalties and costs already slightly over budget. Not necessarily a good thing, but it is a revenue item as well. Other consultants shown under contracted services. Our wage survey still is to be paid in that, so that's about $10,000. So we're pretty much on budget there. That's said and done. There was conversation at the last meeting. It's on the next page. Entertainment expense, obviously, we talked about that. That was a big part of that was the staff volunteer appreciation banquet, which did not occur this year again due to COVID. So where that goes at this point, we have, based on our policy, booked the last Saturday in November. That's where the policy says for this to take place. Unless we choose to do something different. There was some talk about with the new council and maybe the members of the committee that's established for that to look at something in that, but that's where it's at right now. The miscellaneous item there, the $18,000 was asked at the last meeting what that was. I didn't have the answer then. The answer is that's to do with COVID upgrades of the office or the council chambers and all this type of stuff in there. So it's the desks and the computers and the TVs and all that type of stuff. So that's what that one is. And we did get a grant for that, on the positive side of things. So it's not like it cost us any money. That's why we were able to do it and use some of that money towards that because it qualifies. Again, sort of under registration, travel, again, due to COVID, like their using Cottleton's GFOA or something to that effect, LGA for myself, those types of ones. Again, we're not able to due to COVID and some virtual options, in some cases just straight outright canceled. Fire departments, again, under revenues, the other governments, in case you may or may not recall, the big difference there was $135,000 from the county towards capital, future capital based on our 3-year agreement that we entered into there. So we'll go towards those items that are in the future part of that plan. So your salaries is indicated there. We have budgeted some monies towards the possible hiring of the fire chief on a part-time basis for part of the year. Obviously, we're still working on that and comment on that here shortly a little bit. Protective services, again, the number missing there is the RCMP contract. Kind of works on the federal government and provincial governments here ends, which are going to the end of March. So we will get our bill probably into the early part of the new year, which is reflected in this. So that's about the 75,000 that's missing there. Under roads, I guess, the maintenance item repairs, budget about 60,000, still about 10. Those were just kind of recently finished up in terms of secondary and some of those types of places. So the bills haven't come through to the October statements here, probably maybe November 1 or certainly for December. Storm sewer drainage, again, the big one there is working on our constructed wetland. So some movement there, some of the big pond areas has been dug. So there will be some bills coming through for that. Not to the tune of this, unfortunately, for this year. We were working in terms of getting some digging and some work through the far, so we will carry over into 2022 on that basis. Engineering as well is shown as a separate item because of the fact that when the auditors look at the books, they don't consider engineering a capital expense. We show us that, but for grants and stuff, engineering does qualify for capital in terms of qualify. So it is kind of showing that, and it does look funny. We budget more in so-called capital into things, but the engineering does show up kind of funnily on the statements, and that's kind of why. What else do we have? Pretty close to all the notes I have, I guess, unless there's any other questions. Otherwise, it's still looking quite good in terms of stuff. Nothing too drastically over budget anywhere. It's looking on any departments.
Do you have any questions on this? I did, if I could, please, on page 6. if we're looking at revenues, and that is for the fire department. If we're looking at revenue, budgeted versus actual, we're looking at a $398,000 difference. And I see that, so we didn't put in the reserves there yet, right? But that represents a significant difference. What else are we missing in there?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the big thing there that obviously from function reserves is towards the purchase of our new fire truck that came in July.
Okay,
So, and there was sort of 50% of it coming from conditional grants above. We received 50% from the county, so it's showing that, because it was pushing that $500,000 mark. If you go to, where's capital, I guess it's showing the 511,400. So if you add the 265 and 255, you're gonna go with that 511. So it's all to do with the new fire truck.
okay,
And as indicated with the transfers to either reserves or transfer from reserves or transfer from grants, generally, because most of those is kind of year-end and journal entry, is once we have sort of the finalized expenditures. So that's the big part. And obviously, as indicated, so that's the big difference in the 300,000 plus, or almost 500,000 actually. So, but then we received the extra from the county there, 135,000 extra, which wasn't budgeted, so it counteracts that a little bit. But we'll go into future reserves because we're purchase of Jaws and purchase of other vehicles that were specified in that previous financing.
all righty, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on budgets? No? Okay. So I will entertain a motion to accept this information. And would like to make that motion?
Sure, I'll do it.
Correct, Councillor Ackerman?
I move that the internal reports presented in this meeting are accepted for the financial report.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. All right, now we are at the CAO report. And I will just ask you to keep going, please.
So just quickly going through that, I mean, hopefully you had a chance to read it, and I won't go into all the details of it. Number one there, I just wanted to bring to your attention that a formal complaint was lodged as a result of our 2021 municipal election. I had some discussions with the mayor in terms of that. As it turned out here, as indicated there, but I did work with the town solicitor. The complaint came to me as CAO and returning officer, and was, as indicated there, a couple of matters brought to our attention. This is what I'm hoping for, I guess, because, from my looking at it with the town solicitor, we didn't feel that there was any complaint that was valid as a result of that. So I just want you to be aware of it. You may or may not have heard anything about it, but like I say, I had talked about it with the mayor at this point. That's where it was, depending on where it went. So just bringing it to your attention. Obviously, COVID-19, they're still doing the conference calls on pretty much a weekly basis. Just updating information in terms of stuff, providing stats as to where things are at. I did attach the most ones there. And obviously, the new Omicron variant, has come into play a little bit recently. Not a lot of cases in Alberta yet. I think up to about 11 as a result of today. Saying perhaps not as severe maybe as the Delta at this point, but not a lot of information is known, and it certainly has changed some travel restrictions and stuff like that. Doesn't sound like as far as Christmas gatherings or whatever that they're really going to release any restrictions that are in place now. And certainly into the new year, probably looking like things aren't going to change a whole bunch, but hopefully at some point. But like I say, everything done regularly. Solar energy project, probably talked about that at a previous meeting there as well. Still working on a suitable secondary site and some of the details around that. We are proceeding with work at our sewage lagoon site, which was our hope to do the original project in total. But as indicated, due to Fortis and some of the applicable scenarios that they have with load, et cetera, and being in the county and moving to the town, that's where we ran into a bit of a glitch. So we're still working on details, like I say, in terms of the secondary, in terms of the costs, in terms of how that affects our MCAC funding. The MCAC funding is apparently now gone, However, we've already entered an agreement and have funding, from what I understand, secured for our project to an amount that was originally in there. So it's just a matter of, going through the technicalities of changing it a little bit. If it ends up that we could potentially have got more money, we probably will not get more money because the fund is dry, but we've been approved for an amount, which was pretty good. And the original tender on this project was quite good from a year ago when we were looking at this. So we're still hoping to proceed with it. But once I have more details, I was going to have the engineers come to a meeting, or to this meeting tonight, to describe it further, but there's still so much up in the air that it would have been premature to kind of do that. So in the early part of the new year, hopefully we'll have some further details figured out and update us to that from a bigger perspective.
Thank you.
The disc golf course, obviously prior council passed a motion to put some monies in place for that, but there wasn't much of a proposal that had been presented at that point in time. And there was some, supposedly some stuff that was to come forward to administration, which did not until fairly recently here, as indicated November 3rd. Kevin and myself met with Mr. Montina to look at a potential course. We discussed it. A few spots were kind of felt as maybe not the most opportune places to put it. So they went back to the drawing board. They did make some changes. I think Councillor Ackerman was involved somewhat in those discussions. As I understand, he's a bit of a disc golfer. So there is a new proposal that's on the table from Director of Operations Lewis and myself perspective. It seems to not present any major concerns for us. So it's indicated there. They're going to look at requesting approval from Palliser for 3 holes that are on the high school site. And then from there, they'll make a presentation to the Recreation Culture Committee, and then they'll come to council for final approval from there, which is kind of how the process, I think, should have maybe occurred in the first place, but it did not quite kind of go that way. Parks and Rec as well are also looking at some grants and funding opportunities. It's not a major expense in terms of from what it's looking at in terms of budget, but at the same time, if there's some grants and the approvals from Palliser's, whatever, and even town, we need to see a proposal, we need to see a budget, and it still had to come to council. So when we do stuff, so. Municipal elected officials course, I did mention that at the orientation sort of meeting that we had originally. It is, as indicated there, it's a requirement of the Emergency Management Act that elected officials take this within 90 days of taking their oath. So something to keep in mind, we did attach and send separately the information, how to register for it. It's probably, I think, maybe a 2-3 hour type course. It's not, massive, onerous in that sense. It is available online, so you can just register accordingly for that. But like I say, it is a requirement of the Emergency Management Act that we've done. So, and obviously, if you do, obviously it's a meeting time or whatever. So just put that on your expense sheet and grab that.
Can I ask, do they have a method within the course to be able to track your time, like that you've taken it, and there's some kind of certificate available?
I would think you get a certificate. I know when we did, like, the employees had to take the basic emergency management and the ICS 100, and we did get certificates and we completed our courses, so you would get a certificate just to verify that.
So it tracks your progress through it, and
Yeah.
oh, good, thank you.
And here's the option, as you saw in there. Strictly an online course period, or there is an online course with Gary Zilba if you wanted him or him to even come, depending on COVID and your familiarity, that he would even come possibly and do it via that method as well, if that was preferred. But like I say, it is something that obviously with your oath being taken at the end of October, November, December, end of January-ish, probably that's when it's required that you should have it in place. So I just want to bring it to your attention again, and the information is there. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of us or Gary at Board of Emergency Management. Appointments there, I just wanted to bring to your attention since our organization meeting. There were still a few vacancies in some of our committees. We have posted the call again. We have had it in for a while, the last 2 or 3 town news letters. We did put it in the December one as well. I have attached to this 2 individuals that have expressed interest in the member at large appointment to the Emergency Advisory Committee. And as well, I have actually a 3rd one that's even sent an application in here as well, Pam Brown. And then I had Chris Evans has put his name forward as well for the Rec and Culture Committee. At this point, Kim Morak's the only non-council member appointment there. Pam Brown also indicated that she possibly would serve in that. And what she said, if there are younger people, the way she read it here, consider that younger people to serve ahead of this application. But at the same time, Rec and Culture, based on the terms of reference, did require a senior representative as well in their terms. So it does require 2 representatives from Parks and Rec as well, and I haven't received names from that committee as well in terms of who those may be. So there are some vacancies there. Some for your consideration here is indicated. The Emergency Advisory Committee does have 2 at-large vacancies. Since we put that new bylaw in place a year or 2 ago, we never had full complement on that. It's supposed to have the two members of council and 3 at-large. So it's nice now. We do have potentially 3 names, and we've already appointed 1 to it. So I don't know whether you're prepared tonight or not to make any of those, or whether you want to wait for December to see where things go. Haven't heard from, like I say, Parks and Rec Committee. I'm not sure the status of that, because at this point, there's 2 council members in Kim Morak, so they didn't even have a quorum to call a meeting. So number 7 there, I guess, Director of Emergency Services. Indicated there, Director of Corporate Services, Kyle Bullock, former Fire Chief Matt Conti, graciously volunteers to assist, and myself. I conducted 4 interviews for this position last week. We're just in the process now of reviewing notes from those, determining if we'd like to perform a follow-up and or interview a further candidate before considering a job offer on the condition that the position is approved in the interim operating budget. So a couple of, not too bad candidates. I mean, actually, the 4 we interviewed, 1 has since withdrawn, so we're down to 3. But, there's 1 or 2 possibly we could still further interview. And out of the 3 that are left, I'd say 2 out of 3 are decent candidates for sure. But again, it's a matter of, as indicated, a budgetary figure that, wanted to be decided. I guess the key thing is we have an interim chief who does not necessarily want to be chief forever. And we have no dam, and we have no deputy dam. So it is kind of crucial that we get somebody in some fashion in place with this. Further, I did indicate that there was the potential of a regional concept being discussed in January at the, sort of the municipalities within Western County. However, how long that might take before you fell in place is hard to say, because there are, Coldale has paid people, Richmond has paid people in that sense, or a paid person in that role. And so that would leave maybe us, Nobleford and Barons as possibilities, depending on how those other things play out. So, and if it takes like the ICFs and the fire agreements and the rec agreements, it's just quite a while to get in place too. So.
Can I ask a question on that? If I might, within the report, it identifies the full-time position of Director of Emergency Services. But is that Fire Chief / Director of Emergency Services?
Yeah, the intent is Fire Chief then. Perfect. So.
All right, thank you.
So I'm assuming that we, next week we're special meeting to look at our interim budget, which we will discuss that a little bit. So assuming that that still stays in the interim budget, I guess we can sort of move from there as to choose to proceed with that. So. Number 8, MD Engineering Limited, just had Tom Levitt from MD contacted me just to inform me that N Global Corp had acquired their firm. However, indicated that no change to the name, that's still the column MPE, no changes to personnel or services offered should be affected. Just attach a copy of the press release for that information. Just basically what he said it does is expands that they do have access to some additional services, with this company, which is a Canadian wide as opposed to they're from Vancouver to Winnipeg is where he's got offices in now. So it's a little expanded in that sense. But he said personnel wise, it doesn't change anything in that regard. So he just wanted you to be aware if you heard, and he just wanted us, that's why Tom phone was just so that we heard it before maybe it was all in the news or something. What's going on there. So December 21st regular meeting, as indicated, looking at a special meeting for December 14th to finalize hopefully the 2022 interim operating capital budget. Have some town administration personnel limited due to taking vacation time. So after that, or towards the end of that week. So was looking at recommending that the December 21st regular meeting be canceled. I've been talking January 2022 meetings, again with the office being closed until we open January 4th. The 4th and then 18th would be their regular scheduled meeting dates. So obviously we need to be ready for January 4th. So I was looking at recommending we hold one meeting in January and that be held on January 18th. And we can still do community goals on the 11th or 25th to deal with other items, but not necessarily regular council meetings. So that would be my report.
Thank you. So we do have some motions that came out of that, but I'm wondering before we go into those motions, there is two items that sort of I think might be up for discussion as a result of your report. When we're looking at taking the municipal elected officials course within 90 days, we have an option to either take it online or you're saying the possibility of in person. And I just wonder, is that something that we can have a discussion with to determine if all council is comfortable taking it online, or do we want to ask Gary to come down here? For you, it sounds when you're talking about it that that may be an option, or that he might zoom in or something.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And yeah, as he indicated in there, if we're looking at doing that with him, sort of doing it or organizing it, that we would involve perhaps some neighboring municipalities as well, to see if there's interest, not just 2 or 3 of us who's not going to necessarily come for that. And have, more than we would look at that as an option. So.
Do we feel like that's something that we want to take on, or are we comfortable online?
I think we just discussed this a little bit at our Units 101 course, I think, was actually meeting with neighboring municipalities and getting to know them before there becomes, an intermunicipal thing. I wonder if this is a good opportunity to invite, Noble for a contribute or cloud, see if they want to participate in this course with us in person.
Yeah, I love it when we host things like that.
I'd actually already signed up for the online thing.
Did
I
you?
kind of got that one rolling there. You just send an email and then they ask you which course you need. You reply to them and you say, okay, here you go. And you don't need to do it. So I'll probably go that route if it's up to me.
So just have to do both. If we do it in person, you can just sit there and be super knowledgeable and help the rest of us if we make that choice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I only signed up like Scott too, but I haven't done it yet, but I really like the idea of like doing it together, just because it is kind of a basic course too, so it can kind of be like a lunch and learn, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's gonna be like a huge training, maybe, I don't know.
It might be a bit of a nice way to sort of kick off. Are we able to provide lunch for the neighboring communities? I'm just thinking of COVID guidelines, right? So if we have sort of like pre-wrapped sandwiches or something like that.
Yeah, I think Deputy Mayor certainly, can be done. I mean, as indicated, this is a, fairly short course, and a number of municipalities may have already signed up individually as well. It's hard to say, so you may not get quite the same buy-in. The opportunity, let's say it's January 20th, I think, is sort of the first meeting there regarding that regional emergency type scenario. So that there may be another opportunity, I guess, a little bit to do this, or perhaps some other stuff. This, like say, in the 2 or 3 hours it's there, that's what you're going to focus on, because that's what's there. And then there's a test at the end that assumes similar to what we had to do. So it's not that hard. Well, pretty much such fast regardless, but.
But and because of this 90-day thing, by the time we ask the council, they talk about it, get back to us, it's going to be a long
Christmas
time.
in between.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't think maybe that's going to work out timing wise. So I think.
So it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And you know what, and I think we're going to keep that in the forefront, opportunities where we can host, because there is going to be ongoing learning, right? So is everybody comfortable then doing the online? Okay, we'll do that then. For sure. And then the next item that came out of your report, thank you, Kim, was did we want to sort of have a conversation about the potential candidates for our emergency advisory committee? I kind of feel like we should move on that. I think we're pretty vulnerable, and the faster we get that advisory committee in place and just start to really move forward. And sorry, if I could, just for clarity, you indicated that we had 3 applicants and we have 3 committee at large positions, or one of them already filled?
There's 3 positions and we filled 1
Okay,
at our organization meeting. Just double check.
yeah.
Just a thought on this one, we do have that special meeting next week. I think Chris mentioned he's up for a few committees to be on there. So maybe that's something where we could get a list of all the committees that have shortcomings, who's applied to what, because if you have 3 that are applying for the emergency management, if we can put Chris in one of the other ones where somebody else hasn't applied and go hold that way, that might be more beneficial to the town versus having him on there and then having.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Not trying to single him out, but just trying to.
I appreciate what you're saying, but his experience is pretty valuable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's probably more interest-based, like, I don't know if we could shift somebody onto a different committee, but I think I would be comfortable to vote for the emergency measures committee and maybe leave the rec committee if that's a question, because even if we vote, they're not gonna coordinate, so if we don't have one, but get moving on the emergency measures. And Chris's background, like you said, is very much.
Yeah, no, I'm by no means am I trying to single out or anything. I'm just
No.
trying to find the best way to fill all the gaps.
And and that makes great sense if, if you didn't have so many years on the fire department, right? It would make sense. But, I think he would be an important asset to that committee.
Yeah.
And boy, if you know, when we call a special committee to finalize our budget, I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about anything else except for our budget, are we? Few more things?
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Hopefully, we did make a number of recommendations at our meeting in November there, so it'll be bringing forward those recommendations from that meeting and discussing that. So, hopefully it's not too many hours worth of discussion, but and again, as I say, this isn't setting the mill rates, this isn't setting that type of stuff. It's kind of dealing with, like, say, the wages, the utilities, the rental rates, and just sort of some basic operating sort of stuff to go until such time as you finalize.
So are we comfortable moving forward then just with our emergency advisory committee? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did look, we did appoint Barbara Edgecombe Green as a member at large.
Yeah.
So we do have the 2. Just for your information, because I didn't have it in your package, the Pam Brown scenario is she had taken some classes sponsored by the town, 7 years experience with the Canadian Red Cross disaster management team, and was previously in our disaster social services type role. So obviously, and then Lisa Van Weyk had that information in there as to her experience or her background, as well as Chris Everett. So.
Yeah.
And this committee meets maybe once or twice a year, and it's just in fun.
And can I just speak to that? I know that it traditionally met once or twice a year, but we continue to identify that we're kind of vulnerable. We needed to get some work into that. And so we've always kind of thought that maybe we need to meet a little more frequently so we can get some really clear processes in place. So based on just, sort of that ongoing conversation, and, we don't carry much forward from past counseling to now, but I certainly agree with the idea that we need to have a really good solid emergency plan and a really good solid processes in place. And just based on that, looking at Lisa's application, I know that she identified time as a real factor for her. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to say that, just so you're familiar, there is an emergency management agency which deals with more the setting up the plan and doing the plan. This advisory committee then will review what sort of that agency sets up, and then it comes to amendments, recommendations to council from there. So that's why the intent of the advisory committee is to kind of overview what the management agency does, and that primarily is made up mostly of administration people, the DEM, the CAO, and the fire chief, and those types of people. There's not even council representatives on that committee. It's sort of an administration type committee. So, and then it goes to this committee. So just so you're familiar with the process as to what it is.
Thank you. All right, so I guess our next action items on this then would be to determine,
Just to jump in on that, I believe Lisa only put her name forward for the emergency advisory committee. Has Pam put her name forward for any of the other committees?
She said the rec as well,
Oh, okay.
possibly, because she was on there previously.
you know, I hear what you're saying, but did you hear what Pam's experience is and how much training we give them?
No, I'm just trying to understand things. So
Yeah, okay,
it's
okay.
a choice, right?
You know, it's, you know, I mean, we've invested a lot of resources into training Pam, so for her to put her name forward again, made me a little bit excited, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not sure, a lot of times we do this, especially this kind of thing, we do it based on knowledge and experience and, you know, years into it, so that they bring that lens to it. Am I correct in that?
As much as possible. I mean, that's why, there is a bit of a resume that's provided by, we don't ask for a resume necessarily, but we do in the ad sort of, it's good if they, maybe not a resume, but at least some details as to how they might fit for this role.
Yeah.
So obviously, let's say Pam, Chris, and Lisa's all have related type experience for sure, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. As much as I appreciate that, yes, and I love Pam, and I appreciate her experience, I do think it's important to get new people involved. And I think that we want to foster, bringing in new people, right? So we hate to turn away somebody that's kind of like first time volunteer in a sense and, turn them away.
Yeah.
I wonder though, when you talk about experience, like, is it, if we've previously appointed somebody, is it too late to like change that appointment, or? Like, is Barb, does she want to be on here, or is she doing it because she feels she has to fill a vacancy? Because it might be something where there was previously vacancies and she knows that. And if she feels that there's going to be an empty spot, that she's like, well, I'll fill it in. If she knows that there's other people who have expressed interest, would that be something that might impact her decision?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, obviously, she did put in an application for, she was interested in whatever committees we chose, and certainly listed some of them, as this. If you recall, we did appoint her to be, at this point, the disaster social services person, as well as a member at large on this committee. So, what Councilor Florence is indicating there, maybe leaving her in the social services aspect of it, and she could still call on Pam to assist, because Pam's indicated that, if necessary, she would assist even when she, resigned or pulled back from that role. And maybe there then it leaves the door open that perhaps Barb may consider letting 3 other people go on this other committee. But again, she did apply and sort of said, following the election process, that certainly she was willing to put her name forward for committees if we had some vacancies and needed to fill some of them. So.
You do like what Councilor Florence is saying with that though, just with, you don't want to turn somebody away and kind of stop that volunteering spirit.
No, I
And
don't.
maybe it's just having a conversation with Barb about that and just say, hey, how do you feel about this? Like, we have 3, from the list of things, we have 3 people that would be very, very good at that role with their backgrounds.
Yeah.
And then maybe that can help get Barb a little bit more time on the other side of things too, right?
And look at other committee work for Barb and keep her in that social services role, which is, I think she would do so well at. Yeah, I guess my only question was, I know that within the application, Lisa had indicated that time was a real issue for her. And so she said, before I even waste your time, I want to know what the commitment is. And really that was the only thing that I brought up to that, not to shut down new volunteers, but ensuring that it's a fit. I mean, we're not setting any success if we bring her forward on a committee that may have more time requirements than she can give, right?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I mean, I don't know if the email that I gave you or whatever, I did email her back to her and indicated that, because she asked about the time commitment. And so I said minimally this committee, has to meet once, possibly 2 times a year at a minimum, sort of thing. So she did apply, I think, about a year or 2 ago as well. And then, or did inquire and then never actually put forward her name due to whatever reasons. This time she inquired me, gave her kind of a lowdown as to what kind of involvement there was, and she just put her name forward. So like I say, at this point, and based on the Emergency Management Act regulations and our emergency management bylaw, you know, the 1 to 2 meetings are the minimum that, and really that's potentially where that committee would be. So it's not probably looking at terribly onerous at this point in time. And as well, I guess, you know, these appointments are on a yearly basis. Like we do have an organization meeting every year. We do appoint, you know, all the committees, whether it's policy bylaw to SDA to a member at large is on a yearly basis. So there's that option as well. So.
Okay, good, thank you. So we're in a position now where we have to make a decision and we have to make some form of motion going forward.
Is it possible that we don't make a motion today, that we just make a recommendation that administration talks to Barb, gets a feel for it, and that we can make the motion next week? And that way we're still kind of keeping a tight timeline on the emergency measures and everything?
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to recommend it again, or is that good? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, yeah, I don't think we have to make a motion to that
Okay.
recommendation. But I would ask that, you know, that you sort of do that informal recommendation, that you make the motion next week. Okay. Once that conversation has happened, I think that's a great idea. Because you're right, I mean, we rarely do we have this much interest, and it's really exciting. And let's thank you. All right, so there was no other items of discussion that came out of that, certainly, yeah.
Oh, sorry, you were gonna ask a question about more discussion. So just with the number 10, with the January meetings, there's only one actual council meeting for the whole one?
Do we want to make that motion and then we'll have a conversation?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Are you okay with that? If we do that? For sure. Okay, so, well, first we'll just make the motion to cancel the December 21st regular meeting. Did someone want to make that motion? Thank you, Councilor Butcher.
I move that the council of town voters cancel the December 21st regular meeting.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. And then did someone want to make the next motion? Okay, well, I can make that next motion. I will move that the Council of Town of Colhurst hold one regular meeting for the month of January 2022 on January 18th, 2022. Thank you. And then I think we'll have some discussion on that now. Thank you.
Would there still be committee of the whole, I guess, or?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, as indicated in the report, definitely we can look at those for some other items or whatever. As far as a formal council meeting, like the option would be to bump it back a week to the 11th and then go to the 25th, but then you're a week before the February one, so it kind of makes sense to kind of go. But obviously, 11th and 25th is indicated, we could definitely look at committee goals. If you have items to still discuss it, which sure will probably do. So.
I think also it's important to note that if there are important items that come up, we can create a special meeting out of one of our committee of the whole so that we can make motions and take care of business in that way. Yeah, but Debbie, you had indicated you had some questions on that. Or?
You know, I just wanted to make a comment because I know that we're all kind of like, with this new council, we're just like itching to get to work, so it's kind of a bummer to see that there was only one meeting fund. So I would be happy to see committee of the whole meetings on the other days. That's a possibility.
Just a quick question too, on December 28th, we would have a committee of the whole meeting. Is that one still gonna be there? I know that's not 100% on the January ones, but
Certainly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, the office is closed on December 24th until January 4th.
okay, so that won't be starting.
We don't have to move for those types of meetings, right?
No, just the regular meetings do require a council resolution to cancel or change reschedule. So.
Yeah. And so I respect what Councillor Forrest was saying, though, that we do want to get some business going. And so I suspect, and in the past, we've changed our meetings to accommodate sort of holiday times, and it doesn't really have an impact on our committee of the wholes. I think there's probably a lot that we're bringing forward anyways. Right? All right, so we do have a motion before us. Did anybody have any more discussion on this or more questions? Or okay, if not, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, one's opposed. Thank you. And our next item before us is our Director of Operations report. And, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so quickly going through the items there, we probably had a chance to read it, hopefully, our walking path scenario, we had the substantial completion walkthrough on November 29th. There were some deficiencies that were noted, and will be rectified by the contractor, some possibly this winter, some will not be done until spring. And that's probably do have a 2-year warranty period in this scenario with that, so it's not like it's a bad thing. Second, leaf collection. For the leaf collection process this year, as indicated, has steadily gone up from previous years, so more and more usage on it. It's good. The first year was basically half on all the bags we collected. Now it's almost exactly a lot more than that, which is good. So I guess something that's for council to consider continuing. Power outage on December 1st caused some obviously some problems at our water distribution reservoir and lift stations. The guys are working for a good part of the night or someone anyways in terms of keeping things going, but it has been rectified and looked after. A couple of water leak issues is indicated in number 5, one on 52nd Avenue, which was water main to the property line, and another one on 51st Avenue, which was a leak on the customer side of the water curb stop valve. So both of them taken care of. Obviously, had some issues with the high winds as well, snapping some trees there. Taken care of as well, and just some other items that Public Works is working on at this point in time. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'm really surprised with that wind that we didn't see more damage. We were very lucky. Fantastic. Anybody have any questions on that report or comments? No? Okay. So can we get a motion here?
I'll do that. So I move that the Chief Administrative Officer's report is hereby accepted as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? Wonderful, thank you. Okay, and so the next item we have before us, council member reports and questions. And so in addition to the internal committee meetings already reported, council members give reports on their attendance at external boards, ask questions, and provide other information. Is that seminars? Yeah. Okay, you know what? This isn't an angle to me now, okay?
Can I turn it? No.
Yeah, that's all right. So we have a sort of an open discussion time where we ask council to please give reports on any kind of committees they attended or any issues that have been brought forward to them that they'd like to share or any of those items. And you know what? I think we'll start at the far end. We can start with Councillor Atkins.
So the only thing that I attended was meetings 101, which I thought was good. It was a good learning experience. Other than that, I've had other committee meetings or anything like that. So
Cool, thank you.
I have had no other committee meetings either. We've had the AMA, the parliamentary training, and the meeting.
Yep.
So it's all really good so far.
Wonderful, thank you. And
We had organizational meeting at ORS. It was half virtual, half in person. Had some treats there too, that was nice. I was of course elected to the executive members. So it's one president, one vice, and then 5 members. So I think there's 6 people put their name forward, so they had a vote. I'll just give her a 5-minute spiel. Yeah, it was really good to learn more about their services they offer. And they are starting to do these, I think it's monthly newsletter type things or information packages. The one that came out with the recent agenda was about clustered housing. And it was a form of, it's kind of like tiny homes clustered together. It was their kind of research report on there. So they kind of are going to try and put up one of these every month so that there's information about different types of, which ones.
Lighting.
Oh yes, the lighting, oh yeah, that's the one, the different one, sorry.
thank you. orientation to Community Futures. Good to be back with that board. It's been a little while. As well, I am having a meeting with 3 Acres Foundation, a board meeting. I believe we're going to be doing the board orientations right away here. One of the things that I really love about 3 Acres Foundation is also at Christmas time, we go to the different lodges and have Christmas dinner with the residents. And so I love doing that and bringing ingredients from the board. So we just sort of dash down and visit with all the different folks there and get their stories. I just love that part of it. I've been enjoying taking part in that. And at this time, that's it in terms of meetings. But I did put a community member send me some information expressing a tremendous amount of interest. I believe it's the city of Calgary. Just accepted a grant in renewable energy upgrades on their homes. And so the project idea is that the municipality supports a very low interest loan, allowing their residents to do these upgrades on their home. And I believe it's called PACE. So to do financing solutions. And so she brought it to my attention saying that she would love to support us in any way to bring this into our community, to look at our bylaws and see if it is on the property taxes. And so it is sort of paid back with property taxes over a period of years. And my understanding is that it's also attached to the home rather than the resident. So by allowing, this funding to put in these efficiencies, energy efficiencies, it just, increases the value of the home, and the loan carries forward, unless they have an agreement to change that. But I did a little more research, and I found that MCAP, the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, does have some funding as well for those kinds of projects. So I was hoping that we could probably just take a look at. I think that would be really exciting if we were able to offer something like that. We are kind of starting to move into that direction of resiliency, climate resiliency. So I'm happy to forward both of the pieces of information forward to administration and the rest of council if they're interested. Wonderful, thank you. And that was everything. Thanks. All right. If there's nothing else on that.
Yes, sorry, we were talking about when Kim was raising about the budget for the volunteer staff appreciation event. Now that we've approved to proceed with allowing a exemption program in the community hall, I'm wondering if we can somehow poll all the potential participants in that event, request their vaccination status, be sent to us anonymously or whatever, like maybe not anonymously, but no, we're not going to share it anyway, I guess is what I mean. To see if we could do a staff appreciation event under the exemption program and just having everybody get vaccinated, I guess. My question. So that we could hold it sooner rather than later. Yeah.
And so a little larger than the 30% capacity.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all the volunteers who are participating in our community who participate in this event may already be vaccinated, or a large portion of them, maybe not. I mean, maybe not. If they're not, then maybe we don't go ahead with it. But I just wanted to get some feelers out there to find out how many are vaccinated and if they would be willing to.
Can I just add to that? Maybe you just ask, would you be willing to attend a event that has restrictions exemption program in place, right? So it's either the vaccination or the testing, right? And then that's not necessarily asking for their medical information, but it's saying, is this something you're willing to attend? Some people might say yes, some people might say no for whatever reason, right? But then you can get an idea of numbers, and is it going to be feasible to have a majority of the people that this is aimed for being there, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good way to go about it, because I don't believe we can ask for medical information, right?
But if you're doing the exemption program, you have to ask for it to go, right?
Yeah.
So this is just pre-asking for it.
preempting.
Would it just be appropriate to, refer this to that committee?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking for. Yeah, looking for.
And we did form a committee, right? I
Yeah,
think that would be a really good idea to refer that forward, because I think, you're right. Right, if we can ask people if they'd be willing to take part in an event where we have that, I think that would be a great idea. Just to get some feelers.
No, definitely. I think that it would have to be, phrased very carefully, but I just don't think that this is the fit to be discussing it, so. I think that right now, I think we should just refer it to the committee.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move forward to external reports. And we have some information in our package from South Grove Regional, or South Grove Regional Economic Development. Do you want to speak on that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So yeah, a number of items there, I guess. First of all, first one there is enhanced collaboration on regional tourism. So basically they're just providing some information as we're doing our committee appointments and looking at membership in this committee. Kind of a brief rundown of who is South Grove, what do they do, the mission, core values, goals, so that, and then the various committees that they have. So this is mostly an informational type sheet. The following items coming up talk about the membership fee and that type of stuff, whether or not you want to continue to be a member of that committee. So as indicated, this is mostly information in this particular item.
Did anybody have any questions on the information report for South Grove? Would anybody like to make that motion to authorize payment for membership fee?
make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
I move that the town of Culver's, council of the town of Culver's hereby authorize payment in the 2022 membership fee for the South Grove Regional Initiative of $1.
All those in favor? All right, thank you. All right, and we have an initiative brought forward to us, the EV chargers. Can you speak to that, please?
That's like that, Mayor. So it was indicated in the letter here from Peter Casarella. We had, as a town, South Grove looked at submitting a grant under the Natural Resources Canada to do this zero emissions vehicle infrastructure program. They were successful in receiving the grant. So now as a follow-up to that, what they're looking at is anyone that had expressed interest when they were submitting their grant application, just to make sure that there still was interest from those parties and/or are you prepared to, and hoping that you may include those numbers in your budget as they move forward with, contacting and setting up providers and that type of thing. So, so it's indicated in there. There's a copy of the letter that we had submitted back in November 2020, where we did express interest in one 50 kilowatt fast charging station and one level 2 charger as part of their application. So in terms of dollars, at the time, the 50 kilowatt charging station was listed as being up to $50,000, and the level 2 charging was up to $5,000, of which under this, if we were to get the grant, it's kind of 50% grant, 50% town funds to do. So all they're looking for at this point is if you're still, if your letter of interest is still interest, and then I guess if it is, then perhaps in budgeting as they move forward, that you perhaps throw those monies into your budget for that.
Can I ask, though, preparing the Senate, that would be our responsibility?
Yeah, I think initially when we discussed this, that was the thing, was to discuss where we would do this. We could talk about perhaps, across the street. It's a good place, stopping point. We could talk perhaps even our parking lot potentially, but again, it's not that big a parking lot. We have meetings and that, staff and different things here. So that might be the thing to determine where to put this, to advertise it. And obviously at one point, I think maybe this sort of the smaller one was maybe considered for perhaps even a shop or something for moving forward with future vehicle purchases, something to that effect. But those logistics would still be figured out. South Grove has also put out a further sort of thing to get some interest from potential companies that would look at doing the contracting of this type of stuff once they sort of got it out. So at this point, it's a matter of, like I say, just whether we're still interested, and if we are, perhaps, designate money in the budget, and then be in contact with us down the road in terms of that. See where we want to go.
I think we were at the AAM convention. There was another organization that was offered to fully fund the construction of the EV chargers, installation of the EV chargers. I'm not sure if that was, if the Southborough is going to do the same people or not. I don't know the names of the organizations or not, but it sounds like there's lots of money out there being provided in terms of grants for these charters. So I think we should continue to be interested and try to augment our budget as much as we can with other grants as well. Try to combine grants.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I like what you're saying about continuing with the expressing interest. Plus, in this letter, he's saying if, and it's capitalized a few times. So like it seems like if this is real, like it's big, it's just, it's not very concrete, right? It's still kind of contingent on some things.
Well, they've received the grant now, it's just a matter of, like I say, moving ahead to see who's also interested in getting a contractor set out to install these and whoever's interested in dealing with the funding, obviously.
I guess then further to that, would there be an opportunity to, for the portion that we have, to continue to go after grants? Like, is that something that would be?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can. I mean, obviously the thing with some grants are you can almost tax certain grants with certain grants. Sometimes you do have to put in some of your own monies. So that would be the only thing. I'm not sure what the criteria is with this particular one. I mean, from what I'm reading or getting here, it sounds like you have funding up to 50% with this money. So whether you could get another grant to be your 50%, I'm not aware of that because obviously we didn't apply for this grant initially. And I guess some of those details probably Peter would hopefully come forward with as they move forward for the project too. So.
Thank you.
Just a question on the last page of his note there. It says other options in municipal climate change action centers also deploying a similar project. They might have provincial matching funding from municipalities. So is that something that we are looking at as well, or are we just looking at it through Southborough? I'm wondering if there's an opportunity there. It sounds like their list might be a little tight to get onto, but maybe that's full paid for. I don't know if that's worth exploring in addition to this, maybe. I don't know if we're too late. But.
Actually, I think this municipal climate change action center was the one that was presented on this. I think.
Yeah, they did have a booth set up talking about that. And I think what they were looking at was public works vehicles, wasn't it?
They had a charger sitting there, like in
Yeah.
the booth. And I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they just give you a card and say, "Hey, it's all funded."
I know you wonder with stars in your eyes because everybody's promised you everything, right? Yeah.
And I know back when Peter had approached us about being interested in this, he did indicate the MCAT funding at that time was out there as well as another scenario. But he also indicated that some of them didn't give quite as lucrative a grant sort of scenario to this. And MCAT, as indicated with our solar project, we are looking at receiving some funding from there towards that, but not to the tune of 100%. I mean, we're talking, I don't know what the percentages depends on certain criteria or whatever. So again, they may be less than the 50% that you're getting via this, but I'm sure Peter moving forward as well, and certainly we can check into it as well as looking at that as well to augment this program a little bit.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I just found on their website the requirements there. It says you can get up to 30%. So from MCAP, you get 30% costs for heavy duty vehicles, 30% costs for non-road vehicles, and up to $14,000 for passenger vehicles. And you can combine funding with $5,000 from the federal government. So it sounds like you could get for passenger vehicles up to $19,000 through this organization, through NCAC. But exactly, if they conflict or not, we'll have to look into that.
Thank you, thank you. So from what I'm hearing at the table, it sounds as though we have consensus that everybody thinks we should move forward with this project, and then we'll just work out the details as we go, but advise them that we're interested in moving forward with them. And I agree with you, I think that we should continue to seek out other funding sources as well. Does that sound reasonable? Wonderful, thanks. So we do need a motion to that effect to move forward with this, or I think the original motion that set it in motion is sufficient, or what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think the letter that we have on file right now is fine. Because it's indicated, once he moves it forward, he'll come to us with further details, and we can choose to say, yay, or nay at that point, sort of thing, so.
So it's sufficient, just a conversation with you to say, yeah, the council's expressed interest in continuing forward. So, perfect, thank you. So yeah, when you need anything more from us, then we'll just bring it forward and us.
Okay.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, we have another item from South Row before us. It looks as though they are providing an economic development for elected officials course. I wonder if you can speak to that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And again, basically, as indicated there, they're looking at a course on January 20th. It would be facilitated by Economic Developers of Alberta. And as indicated in there, it's free for the first 30 registrants from South Grove member councils. And basically talks about various scenarios of economic development. So I guess just looking for the fact, obviously, to send someone, provided we can get in on the first 30, if we're interested in pursuing that in that sense. And again, as indicated at the previous meeting, to attend these types of things, that's sort of required by council resolutions to approve someone to attend.
So it's my understanding, though, if we have a council member that is a member of South Grove, that they're automatically going as a member of South Grove.
In some cases, but not always.
Okay.
And this one, the way it reads, I'm not sure that the board members necessarily would get first out of the 30. I don't know, maybe Councilor Ackerman, like I said, not meeting it doesn't hurt too much on it, but I would say minimally, if we were to at least submit our representative's name as a possibility, maybe.
So if we put our representative's name and perhaps one other, do you think? And that way, if he is brought forward from the, I think we've done this before.
Yeah, we can
And-
try it.
And each time our South Grove member went as a member of South Grove. Right? And then, so, but I don't know if another member of council had interest in attending.
Can I just add that the worst orientation is also that day? So I don't know if that's gonna be a daytime or anything. And I think the worst orientation is open to everyone on council. Because they're both slated for January 20th.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Do we
I don't know.
have a timeline on that and for the ORSC orientation?
They said that they'd get in touch in the new year with a little bit more of a concrete schedule, but they said save the date pretty much.
You know, the last time they did this, ORSC offered one in the afternoon and one in the evening. And it was about 2-hour length from what I recall. And so,
It does say either afternoon or evening session.
yeah. And I believe it was about 2 hours long. So I don't know if, you know, if a council member chooses to go to this event during the daytime and then go to ORSC in the evening. Yeah. So I guess the first question we'll ask then is our representative on that board, did you want to kind of?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, okay.
Give the opportunity.
Okay, so is there another council member that feels like this would be beneficial for them?
I am interested, but it's a full day course.
I know.
It's vacation days, right?
Exactly. So, I feel it's fine as Scott.
I can fill you guys in.
And then, yes, you can. You're really great at doing reports. All right.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, and
When we're filling it.
so, and Debbie, are you interested in
It
taking it?
is interesting, but again, like the full day thing. If we need to move that, there's a second person, I can be that second person, but it sounds like it, do we need first person?
I guess, you know, the reason why I'm looking at a second person is because frequently our representative attends as a member of South Grove.
Okay.
And so, you know, it just kind of frees us up to allow one other council member to go, right?
Okay, well, I can put my name for that, that's fine. And then whatever happens, keep it posted.
Are we okay with that one?
put two names out there, and I mean, worst case, I'll say we can only have one, or.
For sure,
whatever
yeah.
the case is.
for sure. Yeah. Alrighty, so, do you want me to make that motion or someone else? Well, I think probably we should make someone that doesn't have their name in
I
there.
can do that.
Yeah, just for optics.
I move that Councillor Scott Ackerman and Councillor Deb Florence are hereby authorized to attend the economic development for the health officials course that the economic development is awarded in Cold on January 2022.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, I will. I'll call the question on that one. All in favor? Thank you. No, I was just thinking another reason now. I was like, well, that's good. Yeah. All right. What do we have before us now? We have the Chinook Arch Regional Library System updated agreement. Can you walk us through that one? Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Mayor. And again, as indicated in the mayor, basically, they approached us earlier in 2021 in terms of an updated agreement, the Chinook Arch Board, and their requirements are that 2/3 of the members representing 2/3 of the overall population have to approve it. So we had indicated our approval of it at that time, and obviously they indicated they did receive the approval from the members as well as the population criteria. So as such, the updated agreement comes into effect January 1st and is attached for your information. And again, as indicated, not a lot of major changes in it, basically just updating some language. Okay. So just information for next year.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay. Did anybody have any questions on that? Commissioner Parch? No, if not, then we'll move forward to the next item before us, Old Man Watershed Council. Thank you. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Again, just a letter from them in terms of they have an open seat on their board of directors for towns and villages. So they're looking for a volunteer for this role. It's elected at the Mayors and Reeves meeting, so that's where you can put your name forward. And basically they're looking to encourage an alternate so 2 people can be elected. I'm not sure if it says it will be on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, it's in December 2nd. So I'm not sure whether or not they feel that or not at this point or not, but this is the first opportunity we've had to discuss it. So maybe too late, but if there's anyone interested, I guess we can still
Thank you.
send it to them.
Yeah, I see that we have Councillor Ackerman's name in that, for that position. You're a representative with,
Yes.
that's correct. Thank you. So that makes complete sense that your name is in there. And have you had a previous conversation to say that you would be willing to put your
I
name forward?
haven't talked to them about it. I don't want to stretch myself too thin, but I'd probably rather be on South Grove
Okay,
than on my Watershed Council. But, I mean, if there's still an opening after the South Grove elections, maybe I might put my name forward there, but I don't think it would be lower on the priority list for myself personally.
okay. It's a great board. The Old Man Watershed Council is growing some teeth in this region. I mean, they're definitely developing a wonderful reputation, and it's a strong board. It would be nice if we had a name to put forward.
I think it's just a time commitment thing. I
Yeah,
don't
it
want
is
to
a time commitment.
Especially if I end up on the South Grove board, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be a little better in around.
I know that they're playing quite a large role in providing information around some of the developments to the west of us here. Yeah. I think if it's a time commitment for you, I mean, I'm comfortable with accepting that from you. I wonder if our mayor would. I don't want to just put the mayor's name. Can we just put the mayor's name in there because she's not here
Yeah,
tonight?
exactly.
I think we should, actually. This will teach her to go to New York. Was there anybody else that has some interest in?
I am interested a little, so,
Just a little? Or?
just a little.
I sat on that council for a number of years and I've never been on the executive, but I have enjoyed the work that they do. So I would kind of enjoy to have my name stand, but I don't want to step on their toes.
I'm happy to leave.
And again, I don't know if, you know, if it is filled or not.
Do we really want to push this till next week and find out if that position has been filled? Because we have that special meeting next week.
Well, there's only a few positions open and it's probably going to go fairly quickly, hey? Although, why don't we put my name in there?
Yeah.
And then if you choose not to move forward self-grow, or if the position has been filled with someone, then perhaps I can just let them know that I'm going to let a representative step in. And I'm sure they'll accept that change. Can we do that? Okay. For sure.
Right, so I move that the Council of the Town of Alberta hereby approve Councillor Caldwell's on the board of directors for towns and villages filled by Watershed Council, if positions.
All right. Thank you. Can I call a question on that, please? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. Good. What else have we got before us? Thank you for that. Okay, so then we do have a motion before us, right? Yes, we have a motion to accept external reports. Anybody like to make that motion, please? Thank you. All those in favor? Fantastic. All right, correspondence. Can you walk us through correspondence?
Thank you, Mayor. I can quickly highlight, I guess, number of items there. Lethbridge County, just congratulations from the newly elected Reeve, Troy Campbell, for working and meeting with us, as well as their appointments to the Municipal Committee with Town Holders. So Morris Direct Boss Vanderveen and John Curtis. So a little bit of different names from what we've had in the past, so somewhat due to changes at their council level as well. With that as indicated, the ORS council orientation date, just to keep that in mind. Government of Alberta regarding third doses available for Alberta's 18+ COVID situation. Opening it up to more and more people. Infrastructure Minister regarding an Infrastructure Accountability Act and 20-year Strategic Capital Plan Engagement Act, which he's brought forward for first reading. What's further attachment to that? Outlining that. Some talk about the benefits of a provincial police service. Lots of stuff coming up on that. Of course, Alberta, congratulatory letter as well. And some of the stuff they do. Library Association as well, congratulations on outlining some of their scenarios. Update from the legislature in a couple of weeks there. Alberta Ombudsman's Office regarding a survey that they did in terms of what information that they can provide or address and how their information is delivered. So, and then FCM just Department for Parliament working together on that. So.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on any correspondence? No, I just have a question, comment, I suppose, on the proposed engagement with Albertans on the provincial policing. So how can we, there's nothing in here that indicates that they're going to notify the municipalities. Do you have any idea what the process looks like? Yes,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As indicated in their other business, we have a couple of response to the study that was done, as well as municipal engagement session that is being set up by the Court of Justice and Solicitor General. So I suspect that's what they're referring to in most of those cases moving forward. So.
This doesn't reflect that at all.
No.
This sounds as though it's a very intensive process where they're going to be reaching out to each individual municipality. Okay, thank you.
I don't have much more than other than stuff. Some other things.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions on this, can I entertain a motion, please, to accept the correspondence? Anybody? Thank you. That's right.
I move that the correspondence presented in this meeting is hereby acknowledged and filed.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move forward into other business. And if you can walk us through. Yeah, the city of Cold Lake. Boy.
So just a letter that was submitted to all the municipalities in Alberta, I guess, from the city of Cold Lake. Basically urging the College of Physicians and Surgeons to consider streamlining the assessment process for physicians moving to Cold Lake from outside of Canada. It obviously has, effects maybe more than just Cold Lake in terms of the process. So again, similar to some letters that we've seen regarding the retroactive pay for RCMP to coal mining stuff to various other things like that. It's just letters that have been circulated, and so just put forward here in terms of information, unless you're looking at jumping on support or something similar to that scenario. So.
Thank you. Was there an attached ask to this to request municipalities to join in? Was there that? No.
State, so I mean, it just says,
It's just an inferred.
yeah, because it's sent to everybody, and it's too much like, say, the other ones that have been looking, saying here, do this, and then the ability to follow it up, but there's been a lot of municipalities have been sending letters over and above for that type of stuff. It's the first I've seen in terms of that, so.
Does anybody feel like they'd like to have some discussion on this, or? No? All right, we'll move forward to the next item. Thank you. Alberta Health Services. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, just a letter again, reaching out from this Alberta Health Services in terms of their design of healthy communities together, and kind of describing a little bit of what they do, the plans that they do, and saying at the end of it, basically saying in response to Sutter, we greatly appreciate hearing from you regarding your willingness to participate in a discussion regarding future opportunities for collaboration, or if you'd like more information. So at this point, it's, like I said, information and hoping to get something stimulated a little further.
Okay. Does anybody feel like they would like to spend some more time with this or respond that they would like to participate in discussions?
I think if they're offering some guidance on how we can make our communities healthier, I think it's important for us to listen to that. So I would like to accept their offer.
Health is not just about nutrition. They're talking about green spaces and walkable communities, right? As well as accessible housing and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I think, the more we can learn, I suspect everybody in agreement with that. Okay. So, so really at this point, would you be comfortable if we just reached out to request more information on what that might look like? Do you think we require a motion in order to?
I think we could just send them a response probably, a motion probably. Unless you want to put a motion on the table, just say that, see what's in the letter. Getting willingness to participate or have further information.
Just seek more information on what participation might look like from our end and what the discussions might look like. I think if we leave it in administration hands and you can just get more information for us. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Councilor Porter, thank you. All right, and then we have more information coming forward from Highway 320 Development Association. You can talk us through that, please, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So as indicated in the letter, basically this is, they're looking for financial support from the municipal members. I think as was indicated, and certainly is indicated in this letter, we are one of the only communities, I believe, on Highway 3 that is not a member at the present time. I think talking with some of the people, they remember the indications that were there. We were at one point, and then we felt that nothing's really going to happen. It was a $1,000 type fee, and we basically did not participate. So I guess it's, in light of that, they've still sent us the letter asking for us to consider it again. And there, I guess. So looking at a membership, $33.80 for 2022. And then on the positive, as indicated, they have, had some stuff occurring. The government has put some money into doing some twinning, and they're working towards some other stuff, which at one point there was not a whole lot happening. They were asking, but not very much is being done. And I was asking a little bit of positive movement, so.
When I spoke with Bill, the Munis 101, he seems to suggest that we got our intersection upgrade and then promptly left the association.
You know what, the implication being that we relied on this organization to get our upgrade,
But we
which
shouldn't.
in fact was not the case.
Okay.
Yeah, although they do really great work, this was not one of them.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So what comes with our membership fee? Like, do we put somebody that on the board? Or is it just like consultation? What did the previous council feel that we weren't getting out of the membership fee?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure about the board membership, how it's made up of, in terms of that. I do know in the past that the discussion was basically that what they were asking for, in terms of twinning from, say, Medicine Hat to Lethbridge, just didn't seem like it was ever going to happen because, their logic was it would help spur economic development along that portion of the province, as opposed to maybe, say, the highway through Provincial Pass and some of them there where you have the trucks and different things coming through, and it is congested, it is right through the town. And so it got very expensive to do there, and just didn't seem to be a lot of positive feelings from the government. And so it was just felt from our council, I don't believe we had a member ever sit on the actual committee. I think it's probably limited to what it is, but we just felt from discussions with mayors and reeves or different things that nothing was really happening, similar to Saywall was another one, the Southern Alberta Energy Waste Association, where we did have a member on at one point, and same thing, it seemed like they were spinning in the mud and not getting anywhere, so we pulled out of that as well, after sitting on it for a number of years and attending a lot of meetings. So, like I said, the positive part is now they've had some big wins. They've got some different people working on it, with Victoria Chester, sort of their, secretary type administrative person doing some work on their behalf. And they've had some positive results and some monies have been invested, and obviously they're hoping to move forward. So what we'll get out of it, I guess, if there's, improvements on the highways in the south end of things and some economic development and trucks going by town and different things going, there's maybe some wins for us in that sense. But,
Thank you. And I think that if, now there is things happening, right, and it is picking up momentum. Another thing in here is, the inclusion, they're asking for inclusion with the ICF. I would say that we should, pay the membership fee and be a member. I think that, it would be important to be an advocate in part of the conversation, especially considering some of the concerns we have with our intersection, right? So, maybe that's important to get somebody, get us a membership fee. And really, I think that if there's an opportunity to sit on a board, I think we should look at that too.
Thank you.
I am also just got we good. I think what Deb's saying is completely true. I think that's right. We do have the $150 million commitment from the Alberta government in February to do the twinning. And I think with that traction, you should have a seat at the table to try and encourage any development along the culvert section as much as you can. Right? So.
I agree as well. I think, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think it would be a good idea just for the relationship building aspect of it. Maybe twinning Highway 3 doesn't help us directly here, but showing support to the neighboring communities might get them to support us on our endeavors down the road. And if they are getting some traction, maybe we can have some traction outside of town here on that section of the highway as well, right? Because I know safety is an issue, and with the talks of what's going on in the region, it might be something where we're looking at the intersection sooner than later, right? So even if that's not necessarily through these, but maybe we can get the support of these communities behind us on that, to have a little bit more volume in our voice going forward.
Thank you, Mayor. As the second page of the letter, or the letter from Victoria, does say that if we would like, they would be prepared to do a brief presentation as well to council, or provide a PowerPoint that we could review independently. So, if we're actually further information, I think that's an option that's available as well.
I guess just to add this, I know they're talking about invoicing for January 1st. We are not currently a member, so is there the ability to maybe have that presentation, look at what's involved, kind of see where we're standing, and then possibly jump in later in the year? I guess we would have to kind of consider that for budget and everything like that, but maybe it's something we're not going to make this rush decision to be, okay, we're members January 1st, but let's get some information, let's see what's involved, and then we can make that decision going forward, right?
What is everybody else's thoughts on that one?
So were you gonna say something earlier too, or is that?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I see where you're coming from, but I think that it's really not, $933 is not a lot today, when we're talking $150 million coming down the pipe for, that funding. I would say we go ahead with it right now. And also, it says here that they are asking for a delegate as a representative. So I think that we should also include in our motion a delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody's okay with it, I would love to be that delegate, if I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
No, I don't think you're stepping on anybody's toes.
If that's something that we're coming to the conclusion of tonight, sorry.
Yeah, I think that, if that's what they're asking from us, and I agree with you, there is a lot of political leverage in supporting our region, in supporting our neighbors. There is, and it's important that we do that, but there's also other tangible benefits come out of this as well, right? Anytime we have a positive impact on our region, it positively impacts us as well. So I think it is a smart investment. So what would our process be then? Would we be able to, and I'm just asking for your advice on this, Kim, if we make the decision to rejoin, can we put forward a name for a delegate to join, and then from our own end, sort of create that extra position within our organizational?
I think that, yeah, certainly. I mean, if we've had other appointments throughout the year, and we just added to our organization meeting for future years down the road. And obviously, as indicated here, they are, the last line there says they're asking all municipal members to delegate a representative, so.
And I think from what I recall, I think that it's just, is it every 3 months? Sort of that they just do an all membership meeting, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure how frequently at all. It's, like I say, because we haven't been a member for a while, we haven't really attending, so.
So, from our end, it's not a very large investment to be able to have a voice at the table and know what's going on in our region. So I agree. I think that if someone would like to make that motion, but I would like to request an amendment on that motion that we do submit.
Do we want to do that in 2 motions or just 1?
I think we could we not just
Two,
cover?
unless somebody's opposed to one of the other party.
You know what? I'm good with either. If someone's saying that they'd like to oppose one or the other, because we can just do it as a furthermore that we request that Councillor Deb Florence act as our delegate on that association committee.
Yeah, I can make that motion then. I move that the council of Alberta hereby authorize payment of the 2022 membership fee to the Highway 320 Development Association in the amount of $993.80. Furthermore, that Councillor Florence be appointed as the representative.
Sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
As you're reading it, it's getting moved all over the place.
It's fine.
Thank you. Was there any other discussion on this, or should we call the question? Okay, all in favor? Fantastic, thank you. All right. So we have another membership ask before us from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Is that the next one before us? It is, thank you. Did you want to speak to that one?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, again, this is our, AUMA is our Alberta Municipalities is the provincial sort of voice, FCM is the federal voice. We brought it up, most years for discussion. Some members feel that we don't get a whole lot out of it. Some members feel that we do, and it's been, but traditionally we have voted to be a member as long as I've been, ever not voted to be a member. And certainly, obviously you're bigger, Montreal's, Vancouver's, Toronto's maybe, benefit greater from it, but things like the GST and even some of the COVID monies, obviously, and those types of stuff, those are the things that they have helped us out with, in even smaller municipalities. So there are positives from it. And again, at least they're lobbying on our behalf for whether it's, housing for seniors, housing for lower income type families, to green, green projects, that type of stuff. So, for the sake of $700 and some dollars that's there, $800, it's not a big investment. I know we do have a discussion as to they do have, a conference once a year as well, which generally is all over Canada, depending where it is. Talked at one point perhaps sending a representative, but again, at this point, we've not done that to expense or whatever. But to be a member, it's a voice, and you get the information and stuff is circulated. So I would certainly recommend to you that.
Just quickly browsing on the website, looks like we get access to programs and potentially some funding as well.
Yes.
And then training, right? So.
Yeah, they have some great toolkits as well that we haven't really been the best at accessing. And we need to, we need to get better at doing those kinds of things.
Actually, like the first one out here is the Canadian Women in Local Leadership, right? That's half our council.
Yeah. Right? More than half our council, I just want to put that out
Okay,
there.
that's what I said, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So is there any other discussion on that? Anybody want to make that motion? To make that
I'll
motion?
move that the Council of the Town of Culver hereby authorizes membership in the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the year 2022 to 2023, in the amount of $792.27.
Thank you. Was there any other discussion on that at all? Or? No? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. This is the time of year when all of these memberships come up, and so it's like it looks like we're just waving our hands in the air to spend money. Yeah. Okay, and we have before us another, I think it's another ask, is it? Community support for cat rescue, Last Chance Cat Ranch. Okay, and can you speak to that for us? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, I guess basically it's the first time we've actually had this type of letter from that particular organization. But as indicated, they do provide a service to a number of communities, as indicated there. Basically dealing with cat rescues and finding suitable homes and dealing with, etc. For what it's worth, I mean, we have utilized this in the past. And generally what we've done, if we have, when we had cat traps that we lent out and the cats were caught and when we claimed them, this was a resource that we did use. Anytime that we did take a cat there, we did as well do a donation of $100 or whatever it was, on the basis that, it was felt that if they had to get them spayed and neutered, some medical attention and get them to an adoptable state, that was the least we could do, because if we were going to, in a sense, put the cat down, if that was the only option we had, it was going to cost us at least that anyways. So this was giving the cat, another chance and perhaps finding a good home. So over and above that, I guess they're saying that obviously things have been tough on them. They're full to the max. I mean, it's been difficult. Our police officers indicated, cats in particular, it's tough if we were having cats that nobody claimed, it is very tough to find a place that will take them now because everybody's full. The shelter is very full. This place is very full. But like I say, this is the first time we've had a request of this nature. So I just thought I'll bring it forward, obviously, and see whether or not over and above the adopting type thing we've had, if we've taken a cat there, whether council will consider this. kind of something we don't generally necessarily do a whole lot of with a lot of type things. But I know one that we do is Raymond with the Farm Safety Center. We have to make some money there for some of the programs that they offer for safety on farms and that type of stuff. Just as a small example, but it's like a couple $100. Like I say, this is the first time opportunity this has come up here. Like I say, we have utilized it in recent times, mainly because of COVID, mainly because we haven't had traps out, and mainly because they're full. But we have utilized them in the past. So.
Does anybody have any, do we want to make that motion and then have some discussion about it, or?
They don't suggest any dollar amount that would be appropriate.
No.
But we've given $100 per cat before.
Yeah, 100 to 150, I guess, I think is what we've done with most. Even dogs, cats, we've done that, so.
Just a quick question speaking to that, how often have we been using their service? And I guess what is kind of the tally for the yearly contribution that we would make their way?
Deputy Mayor, like I say, in the past year and a half, 2 years, I think since COVID, virtually nothing, because we haven't really, I think since the police officer's been in place, she hasn't utilized them at all, so almost 2 years, I guess. Previous to that, our bylaw officer did somewhat, not a whole bunch, I'd say, I don't know, half a dozen times a year maybe. But again, it depends, like if we're letting out traps and depending on people cleaning or not cleaning, or how feral or whatever the cats are, I guess, too.
I'm sorry, was that first?
Do we need to make a motion to move it to the floor to continue talking about it? Or we just-
As a rule, we're to make a motion prior to discussion on it. But if we have a motion in front of us, it doesn't necessarily, if it's been drafted, it doesn't mean that we have to make that motion. It's a recommendation from our CAO. So I suppose we can just have discussion on an item. Certainly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, he as our parliamentarian said when he was here, I mean, to put a matter on the floor, you should have the motion. But again, because we're smaller and because, we can bend but not break the rules, we have had discussions in situations where we don't. I mean, for instance, say the first item, Cold Lake, or even the Alberta Health Service thing, I didn't put any motions on the floor because of the fact I didn't really, there were information. If the council chose to put a motion there, that's fine.
Yeah.
In this particular case, because they were asking for a donation, I didn't put a dollar amount, I just put that the council could choose to put a dollar amount if they chose. If you choose to have a brief discussion and just drop it at that, and move on to the next item and consider it done.
So I guess two questions. So what do we do with cats then if we're not taking them here? And the second question is, do we have a policy around donating to nonprofits?
I apologize, we have a policy around,
Nonprofits, donating to nonprofits.
not to my knowledge, I don't know.
Thank you, Mayor. And in regards to the comment about what we do with cats now, and like I say, we haven't let out cats in probably the past 2 years. And in the past, we've made every attempt we can to find a rescue, and or if it was a feral, just injured or something, cat to a certain point, obviously we had to deal with that situation, but very, very seldom has that been the option. Yeah. So like I say, because of COVID, we haven't been putting out traps for quite some time.
All right, well, this seems to be a bit of a drawn against.
No, I feel like it's maybe like a bigger issue with the cats and needing an appropriate program, like a staying or neutering program, but even like a response. That there is no response right now. I would not support a donation to the Last Chance Cat Rescue just because I feel that for one, there's no amount asked, not even like a scale of an ask. And for two, I don't think it's a way to solve the problem, right? So if we're looking at, well, the problem is like there's cats and they're, reproducing and they're getting out of control. Well, how are we getting to the root of that issue? I mean, just donating to them, if we're not collecting cats, we're not bringing them to them. I mean, does that mean that in Culver's that we're implementing a spay and neutering program? Like, not really. I would rather see it towards something more specific rather than just, like, I get that they're doing a good thing, but I think what we're doing with giving like, you know, a nice donation as we bring the cats, I think that's like enough. That would be my sentiment.
I like your suggestion about a spay and neuter program.
I think something needs to be done about it. And if you guys know me, you know that I think that something needs to be done about the cats in this town. But I don't think this is the answer. And I'm not saying that nobody is suggesting that this is the answer, but given the fact that we haven't been utilizing them for the last 2 years, their ask, although it is a very sincere ask, it's, to me, it's lacking a bit of information about where the funds would go and how they'll be used. So.
My understanding is, when cats come in there, that they do spay and neuter them. Each cat that comes in, and that's part of the fee that we give them, right? When we do a small donation, when we bring in the cats. My understanding is that part of the process? Or am I?
Well, if it's,
I'm sure on that.
if we adopt them out, I guess that, you know, like similar to adopting, we have that they have to be spayed or neutered, and there's a deposit, and I think with the new cat bylaw, we put that provision too, but if it's your cat, and it's not spayed or neutered, that's where we have a discussion, and can we, and sort of say, well, it's your cat, you're taking it back. We can't really make you spay or neuter it, sort of thing. It's got to be some other consensus, but.
Well, yeah, we've made that decision. Yeah. All right, so, I've heard your thoughts on that. Does anybody else have any? Are you in agreement with that?
I am, yeah. I think she brings up a good point with we don't really know where the money's going. And I do like the fact that we can make a small donation when we are using the services. Right. So, I mean, if we were to use them, we would definitely be contributing to them. But I think right now with money the way it is, and with it being just kind of an open-ended task with no real reasoning behind it, or concrete reasoning behind it, I would tend to rather see that money spent within town, trying to address the problem here. There is one.
There's, although we do, once we get through the COVID, we're going to be dealing with our problem. We're going to be looking at putting traps or making them available again, are we?
They are even now, if it's, you know, the ask is there with their new cat bylaw that was put in place that they can.
Okay.
It's tougher in winter depending on conditions and over the weekend.
That's right, yeah.
But there are provisions for that, and again, it's a matter of if we do catch them and nobody claims them, then finding a place to take them. Because they are full and overrun.
Yeah. And so, what's your thought process when you brought this forward, that if we, you know, they're in a position where they may be failing as an organization, and if they don't receive financial support, so if there's a time when we need a place to take our cats, that they may not be there?
No, I think my thought process was just the letter came, they were asking for something which, like I say, I haven't seen before. Like I say, we have traditionally, whether it's even I think we've taken some not only to Last Chance Cat Ranch, but some other places too, but we always do a donation, you know, for that at $100 to $150, just on the basis that it does give them at least the means to stay neuter, give them a shot or two, whatever the case is that needs to be done to put them in a position to adopt. And obviously they hopefully make it back if people do adopt cats or dogs too in that sense. So yeah, really it was just a totally first time letter was put on here for consideration because we have somewhat utilized them in the past, but not extensively. So.
Thank you.
How often do these types of charitable requests come forward to council? It's
not that often.
My thoughts are I wouldn't want to, I guess, encourage it to happen frequently.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, it's taxpayer money, so we have to make decisions for the, as well as the community. And sometimes these are those good decisions. But I tend to kind of agree with Councillor Florence. I think, that, if we do respond and say thank you, thank you for your letter. Please note that when we do bring cats to you, that we do provide this donation each time. And it's our intention to continue doing so, something to that effect. I think
Yeah, I think we could probably even go a bit further by perhaps sharing. I mean, even if it's just sharing on social media. You're looking for a Christmas to feel good at Christmas, donate to this charity kind of thing, right? I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but no.
I'm sure people would ask us why we're picking one over the other.
That's true, yeah. Maybe you're right.
Yeah,
I'm sure they
It's a
put
tough-
out their own thing probably anyway, so.
yeah. We could probably just share it, whatever they put forward. All right, good, thank you. I'm looking at the time, and I know we have a bit more to get through here, so if we're good with that response, we don't need a motion to that effect, right? We're just, wonderful, thank you. So, Alberta Municipalities' response to study on provincial police services. Can you speak to that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So again, as indicated in here, the government of Alberta released their PricewaterhouseCoopers feasibility study on this independent provincial police force. And basically they are, as indicated in here, looking for some input and further details to share more in-depth analysis of the study. So with that, they're holding member engagements on January 21st, 10 a.m. to share the results and hear your feedback. So again, just looking at this point as to whether some or all members of council may or may not want to attend and listen to that. I'm not sure if it'll be a virtual or how it'll be conducted. At this point, it's all information I have. So, I mean, obviously it's a pretty hot topic in terms of where it goes or doesn't go and the costs and the implications to the overall costs.
So it does say virtually or in person, so.
Oh, it does, and they do have a Lethbridge one on January the 26th.
That's the second one.
Oh, is that the second one? So they have one first session where they provide you with the information from Pricewaterhouse, and then a second where they ask for your input, or?
Yeah, the Department of Justice Solicitor General is hosting the other engagement sessions for over 3 months, January to March, and that's where
Okay.
they're in person or virtual. This is a different one that's on January 21st. So I'm not sure how much difference there is between the two, but different dates and different scenarios based on what it says at this point. So.
Yeah, so the Lethbridge one is January 26th, 2 to 4:30.
Yeah,
So it kind of looks the same, Pricewaterhouse, but
it does look the same, yeah.
The Wednesday.
And I think that's probably part of my confusion when I was looking, when they were saying that they're requesting feedback and engagement.
Me too.
Yeah, right. At first read, it sounded as though we get to be virtual, a big crowd of people just listening to the report and listening to the recommendations, because when they do a virtual big crowd, you're not giving feedback to them. You're sitting there listening to them. So I wonder if we can maybe just copy and paste and do a registration for the one in Lethbridge for January the 26th.
Well, that's the next motion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, how much difference there is between one and the other, I'm not sure. It's just weird that it's different dates and it doesn't coincide with the dates on the other one.
Well, one's through Alberta Municipalities, right?
Wow.
And then the other one's.
Yeah, Alberta municipalities.
Boy, if we had this to be able to just click into this, that'd be so nice. Yeah. So we have two different dates here. So what we're looking at before us, right? We're looking at, that we have the opportunity to either take part in Lethbridge Live or but that is not an online component. I suspect it might go fairly quickly then, right?
The Lethbridge one?
Yes. If it's in person?
So it's 2 to 4:30 is what they say, right? So,
Yeah,
but you're right, they may not use that whole time.
sorry?
They may not use that whole time. I guess.
Yeah. So these look like they're all live from what I'm seeing, and then there is
There are virtuals.
and then there's virtual ones
Starting
as
March
well.
14th.
Okay. So do we want to try to register everybody to the Lethbridge one? And then if it's full, then we'll explore the idea of the virtual. Is that what we're talking about here?
Access space is limited, so it may already be full.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What's anybody else thinking on this? Are we good? Okay. All right, so does somebody want to make that,
Send everybody.
well, we are, but I think what we're seeing here for January 21st and January the 26th, I think they're the same. I think the same.
One is a response from AM, the response to the city on the provincial police services, and the next one is from the Alberta Justice and Solicitor Minister, the municipal engagement sessions. So it's two separate things.
Okay.
Can you point to where it is mentioned the 21st package?
Yeah, thanks.
That is on page 190.
190?
Yeah, or actually 191, sorry, it's about halfway down the page.
Friday.
It's highlighted in bold.
Friday, January 21st at 10 AM to share the results for an analysis.
Oh, here we are, yeah. Okay.
Where it's so tiny, it's
No end time.
No. But that's weird, this one is Alberta Municipalities giving their sort of take on their study of it.
Okay,
The other is Alberta Justice.
Perfect. yeah,
both sides.
yeah, perfect. I think that's fantastic. Sorry, you know what, it was confusing me because up until a couple of weeks ago, for years and years, it was AUMA. Okay. So now I'm looking at Alberta Municipalities and it's, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that that's fantastic that we are registered in both sessions. Yeah. Everybody else in agreement?
Can I make that motion?
Please do.
I move that all members of council are hereby authorized to participate in member engagement event on an independent provincial police service on January 21st, 2022.
Fantastic. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Fantastic, thank you. Okay. And then we have our municipal engagement from Alberta Justice and Solicitor General. Okay. And would you like to make that motion?
Yep, are we ready for it? Sorry.
We are.
Okay, I will move that all members of council are hereby authorized to attend where did it go? The municipal engagement session of the release of the Alberta Provincial Police Service Transition Study hosted by the Department of Justice and Solicitor General in Lethbridge on January 26, 2022, or via a virtual date.
Perfect. Thank you. All those in favor? Are you leaving us, Stan?
Yeah.
Okay, good night. Good night. Thank you. All right, before we close our meeting, we probably have to make a motion to go past 10 p.m.
Yeah, I was just gonna make that recommendation.
It'll take about 30 seconds. To do
Well, then let's take a chance and let's go. Okay.
Can I make the motion to move that the council close the meeting to the public for agenda item 9H, Minister of Western Economic Diversification, Canada Community Revitalization Fund as per section 25 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act at 9:56 p.m.
Thank you. All those in favor?